financial situation.
More deliberations begin later.
Look, popular pie plants pictured here.
Wile E. Coyote, Wile E. Coyote.
Scream out good kid, m.A.A.d. That's really my lifestyle, and that's not really me talking about myself, but it's talking about the people that was around me. I feel like we all was good kids. You know, we put in this world and we didn't have a bad conscience. Things that we seen make us into these bad, do these bad activities. But at the end of the day, we all good kids, and what really separated me from everybody else, the fact, I was allowed to dream as a kid, allowed to have a father and know that, a mother, and know that something bigger than Compton. So when you hear all these intricate raps, it's just me being a dreamer along with the street things that I've seen and putting them together. And what happens is, it gave me a whole lane that nobody really went up on it, and people gravitate toward that because they have that same lifestyle too. Nobody just never really told the story the way I'm gonna tell it. I really, really, really came into my own like this past 2 years. Like I was going toward that, but now I really found something that nobody is doing, and that's my whole thing. I don't want to be like nobody else. I want everything I do to be original. Let me try to do something different. I'm challenging myself not to use the same pattern that everybody uses. I can do that. I can do that. Everybody using that flow, and I recognize that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do somewhere, it feels like my subconscious is talking to me. Now, open your mind up and listen to me, Kendrick.
Yeah.
Your conscious is using everything. You will be history. Everything fall on the snare. And that's something that I'm aware of. Because I feel like, hip hop is based on, originality and not biting off each other, but challenging each other, to elevate the game.
Just another player with lots of game. Never had shit, got lost, game.
Peace and love, y'all. We're back for part 3 in our series, How to Decipher Poetic Justice, Seeds of Money Trees. Before we get into the discussion for this video, let's take a quick look at what we talked about in parts 1 and 2. In How to Decipher Poetic Justice for Dummies, we pointed out the depth in the lyrics to the Poetic Justice song and presented how these lyrics could be interpreted in multiple ways to diss Drake. In my second video, How to Decipher Poetic Justice Lookin in the Mirror, we took an in-depth look at the Poetic Justice music video and highlighted the reflections that were inspired by the Poetic Justice film. With part 3, Seeds of Money Trees, we want to see what seeds were planted to produce poetic justice, and if those seeds can serve as good soil for the poetic justice theory to take root. Looking back on everything from Anthony Imbranone and Desiree Rose's poetic justice theory, we're going to follow their rules and take an in-depth look at the timeline of events and the lyrics in the songs released during the Good Kid, m.A.A.d era to see if they potentially reinforce the message in this theory.
None of our platforms are monetized right now. The original video was never monetized. These videos are not monetized. We are not profiting off of this, but in any way, shape, or form.
None.
This is purely for the love of the music, and this is just a breakdown of the updated version of Poetic Justice, the Poetic Justice Theory. And we also want to say, we know that we're white, and and we
obviously
know, we know that we're white and that we are a guest here, and we just want to contribute to the conversation. We're not trying to take away from anything. It's just all about art appreciation. We're like Snoop
if anything,
Dogg.
I'm trying to share this with people.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is really cool. This is really, really cool. So, we know we're a guest here, and it's all love. It all comes from a place of love and loving the art and loving what we saw, because this is just really,
and
really
just
cool.
wanting to share it with everyone. So
even though Kendrick is still using his lyrics to point back to what he said on Poetic Justice, we're going to stick to the period around the time that Poetic Justice was released. Now, I must say, I don't care if you disagree with this theory. I don't care if you like how I'm presenting this argument. What you will not do is hop in my comments spewing disrespect. I'm giving these goofies a spotlight to show how not to act, because there's no reason for anyone to be this disrespectful in the comments of a Poetic Justice Theory video, and making sexually charged insults to another man because you disagree with how he goes about his content on his page is peak goof troop. And to this ignorant motherfucker who thought it was cool to attack Anthony and Desiree by calling them racist, they are making a great case for Donkey of the Decade, right behind Drake and Donald Trump. We even ended up in a Discord chat going back and forth because he said I was bootlicking for standing up for what's right. Feel free to think whatever you want, but you should know you won't get very far in life being a keyboard killer. Luckily, not everyone is irrational on the internet, and some people actually agree with what we're trying to present with this theory, and they should know this is who we do it for. Having the courage to present your thoughts online for people to critique is not an easy assignment. This couple should be celebrated for what they're doing. Consider what Kendrick thinks about this theory and how this couple is going about it before you use negativity to speak for him. That being said, these are my thoughts and opinions. None of what I say in this presentation should be taken as fact. Everything in this presentation is open to interpretation, and I welcome any dialogue on this topic in the comments. Please be respectful, and if you feel yourself getting riled up, go touch some grass. This is an early version of the timeline that Anthony and Desiree produced for us when they initially promoted their theory. The timeline extends throughout Kendrick's entire career, even up to the release of Baby Keem's Casino in February 2026. For the purposes of this video, we're going to confine the conversation to what I consider the Good Kid, Mad City era. But before we dig in on the timeline just yet, let me show y'all something that I found very interesting related to this literary war of words.
Like, we gotta stop. Like, we reaching. Like, some of these videos are still like, bro, we be reaching. And it's just like you said, like, everything ain't like some of these things make it seem like Kendrick came in the game like with a sole mission to take Drake down. Like, he has no other life outside of being super coded and cryptic and taking Drake down. And this is the, like, come on, bro. Like, everything don't tie back to Drake, bro. He's not thinking about that man like that all the fucking time. Like, let's not do that, bro. Everything is not a veiled Drake shot. Everything is not like some type of connection, connected dots and all that. Like, no, like, things can stand on their own and it be okay, bro. It's okay. Like, everything ain't gotta be a connection. Like, we like, I know we try to do our research and deep dive, but I don't know.
Well, since you don't know, allow me to inform you. Get some water, take a deep breath, because we about to reach all the way back to the 1840s with this one. Some of you may recognize this man as one of the giants of American literature. To quote his most famous poem, "Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door." Now, this infamous MC is none other than the great Edgar Allan Poe. He was a foundational figure in American literature and was known as the innovator of detective fiction and a master of Gothic horror. His work emphasizing atmospheric terror and structured narrative has profoundly impacted global literature, film, and art. Side note, I swear I had no idea what macabre was until I started researching this topic. Remember this definition as we go forward with the rest of this discussion. Now, what you may not know about Poe is that he often created conflicts between himself and many of his contemporaries at that time. He accused one of his most famous rivals, Henry Longfellow, of plagiarism and imitation. He also said his writing lacked depth and artistic value because it was so simple-minded. Poe would also frequently refer to Longfellow as a didactic naif, which is officially my new favorite insult. Why, you ask? Because I don't know of any better way to call someone a dummy where you know it's probably a good chance they have to go look it up to see what it means. Now, Poe's main nemesis was Rufus Griswold. Another side note, it's got to be hilarious beefing with a guy named Rufus. These two started going back and forth because Poe felt that Griswold was not sincere in his review of literary writers at the time. Poe believed he showed favoritism to his friends instead of rewarding writers on the basis of their art. Now, ironically, the beef between these guys escalated over a couple of dollars and their shared interest in the same woman. After Poe's death in 1849, Griswold began a smear campaign to ruin Poe's legacy by using an alias to write a scathing obituary, and later he wrote a biography that extremely exaggerated the already negatively painted perception he tried to put on Poe. We all know of Edgar Allan Poe, so it's safe to say we all know how that turned out. But I do recommend you take a trip down that rabbit hole whenever you get a chance. It was entertaining.
Yeah, why you taking everything personal? This that in your face, all offensive on purpose flow. My city never effing need me. Yeah, oh wait, no, they really need me. Oh wait, hold up, young effing Wheezy. Holler at me when you done effing Wheezy.
That's weird.
Yeah, okay, it's young Drizzy. Yeah, alright, I told you. New York, New York. New York, you gotta understand, I've been on the road for like 2 months, just grinding it out, you know what I'm saying? I've been on the road really like doing these shows every night. So I'm coming in, ooh. That's how you feel tonight, Flex? Hold up. So you called me off now. You called me all the way off now. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna get this. Hold on. Can we come back? Can we do it? Can we come back? Yeah.
Nice.
Hold on. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him.
So crazy.
I promise I'm gonna get him. I promise. I can't give him everything, Flex. Like,
no, you can't.
I can't give him everything because, you know, like, you gotta understand, this is my first. You want me to do it again? You want me to?
No.
This is my first, like, real time on the radio. Like, this is my first real.
Your first real, like, blast off.
Like, with the big dog.
Launch.
Like with the.
Well, you know.
You know what I'm saying? Like.
And
it doesn't get much realer than
I want to
this.
get the story, New York.
Please.
Now that we've gone down that rabbit hole, let's take a look back at what I believe is the first reference of money trees between Drake and Kendrick. While researching this Shakespearean shakedown, I discovered what could be seen as a major piece of evidence suggesting that Kendrick was a ghostwriter for Drake. On the song Poe Man's Dreams, Kendrick directly responds to Drake's bar with what is clearly a much more elevated perspective of himself. One could say he's planting the seeds for him to eventually become Mr. Morale. After discovering this gem in the lyrics, I decided to go back and look through each of these songs individually to see if I could find any more clues that could be used as evidence in our poetic justice case. To open the verse on The Resistance, he talks about living inside a moment in Vegas. He declares he has a great memory, his enemies aren't on his level, and he remains loyal to the ones closest to him. At that moment, when you look deeper into the lyrics, you start to notice a few contradictions. Because I was there and I know how he quote-unquote blew up in real time, I decided to dig a little deeper into what it meant for him to call himself a martyr. When I look at that second definition, I believe that couldn't be a more accurate description when it comes to the character known as Drake. I found this bar about the game and his heart to be extremely suspicious when you consider that Kendrick's The Heart Part 1 was released a few months before Thank Me Later, who really put their heart into the game at this time. In the next verse, Drake tells a story about ignoring his grandmother while he engages in escapades with women who seemingly don't matter. These bars somehow seem to play out in the Poetic Justice music video. While Drake may assume this was a flex, the way Kendrick played on this is diabolical if you ask me. As we go to the third verse, we see Drake confess his contradictions as he doesn't remember when he started changing or when he started treating his friends different. He describes a situation when he was robbed at a Chinese restaurant in his hometown. He believes it may have been set up by a woman he thought he trusted. Now, honestly, you have to admit, this sounds like a very similar situation to what Kendrick experienced messing with Sherane on Good Kid, M.A.A.d City. As we close out the third verse, I don't know why he thought it would be a good idea to say this part about guessing and getting it right, but in my opinion, this clearly plays into the main parts of the diss at the end of his verse on Poetic Justice. Now, if we go back and take a look at Poe Man's Dreams, remember this is on Section 80, which came out in July 2011. Kendrick even mentioned how Drake was the first person to hear the complete project when he sent him a copy after they met in Toronto. On this song, not only is he directly addressing what Drake said he values at 23, he seems to be giving out some sound advice on how to move through life. In hindsight, it looks like he's warning him, letting him know that at this point, he looks like he'll fall for anything. Towards the end of the first verse, we see how important the music Kendrick writes is to him. He believes he and his pen have the power to save his people. The intention behind getting it right directly opposes how Drake goes about it, and it reinforces the pre-hook on Kendrick's first verse from Poetic Justice. We don't really go into the chorus of the song, but it basically describes the dream of putting yourself in a position to help your loved ones kick back and enjoy life to the fullest.
And he said, I'm gonna blow up. I'm gonna get big in the music industry. So I want my music. Hopefully my music will get you off of death row. He's saying, I want my music to change your perspective. I want my music to let you know that death row is not your destiny. You can be more. You can be better than a statistic. He wants to inspire people. It's this element of hope that he's always held on to. You know, this is just like the aspirations of a young Kendrick Lamar, the hopes and dreams. That's why it says Poe Man's Dreams, because oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's literally his dreams. It's his hopes and dreams. He's a Poe man. It's a Poe man's dream. And it's just, oh my god. You can even interpret it like as a Poe man, like it's kind of simple the way it's being used. Like it's describing somebody who's just, you know, a simple guy. I'm just a dude. But I have big dreams and I have big aspirations and I have hope in spite of my surroundings. I have hope that my people will aspire to be better than a statistic, that my people will end up in higher places than on death row or in a jail cell for the rest of their life or in a coffin. I want better. I hope for better. I hope that my music, I'm gonna blow up and my music will inspire you to change your life for the better.
Now, at the very beginning of verse 2, right before Kendrick mentions he's 23 with morals, he makes a subtle reference to one of Drake's later singles, Started from the Bottom. This is right before he proceeds to say his killings are not remorseful. Yikes. As we close out the song, he tells us that his simplest bars are more pivotal. Keep that in mind. Notice the amount of times and the ways he repeats common themes in his music. He foreshadows how he uses his art to speak to the hearts of those who need it most, and he invites you to take a walk in his shoes so you can get to know him. To sum it up, his dream is that by being vulnerable and sharing his story with you, you will get to connect with his music, and through that, he will ultimately gain your support as an artist and be able to provide a better life for his loved ones. Now that we've gone through that somewhat brief detour, let's return to the timeline and now go to what is universally considered to be one of the first diss tracks aimed at Drake by Kendrick Lamar.
But I'll say this, man. I do appreciate the fact that there is this kind of constant push and pull between fandom and like DJs and critics in hip hop. Right? Like I like it. I love seeing it. Where there's people who like consume hip hop and have critiqued it and played it professionally. That is their life. And then fans who are like, no, this is my favorite and I disagree with this critique. Like, I think that's a healthy kind of a dialogue that's constantly taking place.
The only thing that's made it unhealthy is the downside of the Drake and Kendrick thing is there is such a toxicity now when you talk about anything related to Drake and Kendrick.
So that goes back
That
to
sucks.
Well, so that goes to me going back to me talking about Drake being a cancer.
I don't know, man. Fuck everybody, man. Shit.
When I said Drake is a sickness, right? When everybody's like, he called Drake a sickness.
Yeah, that was a tough line. Yeah.
It's a tough line. But your fans are a problem. Your brand is a problem in this game, bro. Like, the fact that we can't just have dialogue without sycophants going nutso about you is problematic.
I'm trying to kind of escape from the whole Drakeness of a lot of this shit because it starts to turn into like some weird ass sycophant that Kendrick would have to have for a lot of this shit to make sense. And I just ain't fucking with that because I mean, how I'm looking at Dot, if like his whole career, he's been having this very, very dark in the corner of a room with like flickering lights and like leaky ceilings, just writing raps, like hoping one day that somebody will realize he's talking about Drake. That shit is weird to me. Get it. I get it. It's interesting. It's great fan fiction. It's great lore. It's great, all of this stuff. But like, once we really get to like the real aspect of it, it's like, okay, we went all the way down this road. How do you look at Kendrick once we get here?
Yeah, because I wouldn't look at him the same.
I see a nigga with long nails, sharp teeth, like a hunched back, in a wet notepad, just in the corner, just writing. You feel what I'm saying? Like just. I gotta get it. It's like, no, like that's not it. I just think after a certain while, Drake represents a lot of shit Kendrick don't fuck with.
While I understand we all don't know this man personally, we also don't know all of what he's had to go through to get to this point in his career. The way Kendrick raps, you can tell there's a hunger that exists inside of him to be the best, and most artists don't have that. So go ahead and think what you want to think. He even told you to call him crazy, remember? For all we know, him playing this prank on Drake could be one of the least damaging things he's ever had to do to survive where he comes from.
I've read that you start each day by staring at yourself in the mirror for 10 minutes.
Yes.
How did this start and what do you get out of it?
Crazy story. Started when I was 9 years old. I was looking in the mirror, talking to myself in the mirror, and a split second I seen something a little bit different than just what the eye can see, you know, in the physical form. I seen something a little bit more. I actually seen my soul, you know, in the mirror. And it's a scary sight, you know, as a kid, and you realize that it can take your mind somewhere totally different, you know, for better or for worse. In my case, it was for better. And what it does for me, it lets me know who I am, you know, and who I always will be, and where I come from, and what I'm trying to do, you know, with myself and the people around me, you know, as far as inspiring people, inspiring others, and, you know, continuing to be positive. Yep.
And you know a lot of people in this room are going to go start doing that now.
Oh, man, it's a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing, but it works. It works. It lets you know who you are for real.
Now, looking at the start of the timeline, Buried Alive is the first song Kendrick and Drake openly collaborated on, even though Drake isn't on the track. I'm going to use one of my favorite YouTube channels, Underground m.A.A.d, to help me explain what we see from the song as it relates to Kendrick and Drake's relationship. In the intro to the song, Kendrick is describing how he would act if he was stuck in a pine box, which most people consider to be a popular description of a coffin. He declares that if you was in a pine box, he would essentially jump in and try to save you, and if he couldn't succeed, he'd lay right next to you and die with you. Nobody has mentioned this, but this voice change could indicate that he's taking on a different perspective to deliver this message. Like he mentioned in the Rap Genius intro at the beginning of this video, the voice change could be an indication that he is speaking from the perspective of his subconscious. He's saying that the deep-rooted habits and beliefs he has will literally try to save him from this situation, this box he's placed himself in. And if he dies because he refuses to break out of this box, this subconscious entity will die right along with him.
How come nobody has talked about how much of a sneak diss this song was? Like, I feel like this shit is so overlooked. It's the most obvious sneak diss. The man is saying, looking in him. There's a whole perspective piece that I found where he talks about the song himself. This is a song about the night that they met. Yeah, all the people that were typing already, but check this out. This is from the man himself. If you're not looking at the screen, I'll read this to you. I did a show in Toronto on June 16th. My first show in Toronto. I think it was the same night. We was going to the hotel and he had my phone. I guess he had got the word I was in town. He was there for the night working for the album. He just said he wanted to meet up. We met up, chilled out, got the vibe and see where each other was at and shit. Sometimes you like a person's music, but you definitely don't like the artist when you sit down and you talk to them. It's a real good dude. He got a real genuine soul. We clicked immediately. We spoken probably one time before that. I don't know if that same shit stuck out to y'all like it stuck out to me. Sometimes you like a person's music, but you definitely don't like the actual artist when you sit down and you talk to them. And then fucking Buried Alive comes from this meeting. This is truly the genesis of the beef. How do you get dissed on your album?
God damn.
The whole song is the concept of being buried alive. I want to read you guys something else from the interview. He was asked if he had heard anything from the album prior and if there was any restrictions on what he was writing. I didn't hear no music for that album. Me being a fan of his music, following his career, listening to the prior songs he dropped, I felt like he was in a space now where vanity is everywhere and he has his hands on every bit of it and he's trying to escape that, but at the same time not being in denial of it. I wanted to speak from a standpoint of me being a new artist and almost being in his shoes that he was a couple of years ago or last year and expressing them feelings.
Okay, let's break this down on a micro level. The verse opens with a scene where Kendrick is looking at himself in the mirror, describing that he's feeling like an ST. I hope y'all see what I'm talking about because I don't want to say it and get in trouble. An ST is someone who has no problem hurting himself in order to cause damage to someone else. While other lives are usually lost during an attack by an ST, the main goal is to dismantle an organization of people. Then he describes meeting an outsider related to the music business that gave a Canadian, i.e. Drake, a deal that would give him access to luxury cars and fine women. These were examples of his vices. My favorite bar from this part of the verse is when he says,
Mind over matter never worked for my nemesis, right? Keep that bar in mind. During that same interview that I read to you from, they asked Kendrick another question. To kick off the verse, you talk about being a terrorist. Why?
Why?
It's me being in denial. When I say buried alive, that means I'm for everything that's happening. The women, the money. It's a metaphor for me basically saying drowning yourself in that and not being able to come back. Looking in the mirror, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed of what's going on. I'm in denial of it. And saying I'm a terrorist, I might kill myself over it. Framed in that perspective from those words, this doesn't sound like too much of a compliment to me.
From the very beginning, Drake's music operated in what psychologists call ambivalent sexism, a framework where benevolent and hostile attitudes towards women coexist at the same time, without the person holding them experiencing those attitudes as contradictory. So this isn't a story about Drake starting out as a good soft boy and suddenly turning into a big baby incel. No, this is a story about coexistence, affection and resentment, intimacy and entitlement, vulnerability and control, all at once, at the same damn time even. Early on, the benevolent side did most of the talking. The emotional openness, the heartbreak, the confessions, the I'm just being honest about my feelings posture. That's why Drake was framed as the rapper for women, the sensitive one, the one who made space for feelings in a hyper-masculine genre. But the hostility was never absent. It was softened, it was aestheticized, and it was carried inside of the vulnerability instead of replacing it. And I believe that distinction matters. We need a framework that explains how care and resentment can coexist.
Not care and resentment. Shout out to Mother Rose for that video, because she was spitting some hot fire on that joint. I have another clip from her in a minute, but continuing on with the second part of the verse, we see Kendrick confess that his vice is similar to Drake's. It's not exactly the same, but similar. That's a clear distinction. He talks about being in Vegas, which is reminiscent of Drake in The Resistance. Then he talks about blowing off reading a verse to go get some head. not writing but reading a verse. That's intentional. He calls a woman a bad bitch and then tells her that her ass is too fat. This reminds me of the fight scene from Poetic Justice where Lucky made a similar comment about justice. Lastly, he says you can blame all of this bad behavior on "you're Canadian." This is the part in the song where he talks about sitting down with Drake and 40 for a meeting.
He didn't sell him false words, which I thought was interesting. But he talks about the whole meeting and how he describes the whole scene of the ambience of getting out of the car and the car pulling up and him, all he was missing was Aaliyah and the shit feeling like he was in the Matrix. And he was like, what the fuck, this is the industry? And how they sat down in the whole meeting. But key back to that interview. Again, he said this: sometimes you like a person's music, but you definitely don't like the actual artist when you sit down and talk to them. That's a real good dude. He got a real genuine soul. He can still be a good dude and you can still click with him, but you still don't have to like him.
Before we go any further, we're going to need a lens, because without it, a lot of what I'm describing can just sound like vibes or personal opinion, or just like me being mad at an album that I don't like. This framework comes from social psychology, specifically the work of Peter Glick and Susan Fiske, and it's called ambivalent sexism. The first question that Glick and Fiske ask in their study, the Ambivalent Sexism Inventory, is a deceptively simple one. Is sexism a form of prejudice? At first glance, that might sound obvious. Of course it is. But here's the complication that they point out. Most classic definitions of prejudice define it as antipathy, a negative feeling towards a group based on rigid stereotypes, hate, distance, and disdain. That works cleanly when we're talking about race, ethnicity, and nationality, but gender doesn't quite work in the same way, because men and women are not distant groups. We're not socially separated. They're intimately connected romantically, sexually, domestically, and emotionally, historically, and presently. And culturally, women haven't only been depicted as inferior or disgusting. They've also been revered, idealized, protected, romanticized, and worshipped. So sexism doesn't just show up as pure hatred. It shows up as ambivalence. Glick and Fiske argue that sexism has always operated along two tracks at the same time. There's hostile sexism, resentment, punishment, degradation, and anger towards women who don't comply. And then on the other hand, we have benevolent sexism, care, protection, affection, intimacy, and emotional disclosure that feels positive to the person expressing them. But here's the key part. Benevolent sexism is still sexism, even though it sounds like love, even though it sounds like concern, even though it sounds like I just want what's best for you. Because underneath that softness is the same structure, traditional roles, male dominance, and control over women's behavior. A simple example they give is this: a man telling a female coworker she looks cute. He might mean it kindly. He might feel affectionate, but it still undermines her authority and professionalism. Now let's translate into hip hop terms. And again, this is where that RZA quote that I mentioned earlier becomes really useful. Remember RZA talking about how violent lyrics over harsh beats hit differently than violent lyrics over smooth melodic production. When the sound is rough, you register the harm. When it's smooth, it slips inside you in a different way and kind of can fly under the radar as harm. The same thing applies here. Hostile sexism is loud. You hear it and you see it. Benevolent sexism is a bit smoother, and you feel it and register it a bit differently in the body. And because it's delivered through intimacy, confession, vulnerability, and romance, it often doesn't register as harm at all. That's why ambivalent sexism is so powerful. People holding these beliefs don't experience them as contradictory. They don't feel confused. They feel consistent. They can sincerely believe I love women and I protect women, and I hate certain women, and some women deserve what happens to them, all at the same time. Glick and Fiske explain that this often works through subtypes. Women who comply with traditional roles, the good ones, receive benevolence. Women who challenge those roles, feminists, sexually autonomous women, and women who don't submit, receive hostility. This is how someone can say without irony, I don't hate women, I just hate those women. And this is the psychological structure that I believe Take Care sits inside. Because the album doesn't sound hateful. It sounds caring. It sounds hurt. It sounds intimate. But the control, the entitlement, and the moral sorting, Who deserves grace and who deserves punishment is already built in. And once you hear it, it's very difficult to unhear it.
Now, I'm not exactly sure why Rihanna and Aaliyah were mentioned in this song, but it could have something to do with them being so young and easy to take advantage of when they joined the industry. With this new lens of how Drake's Take Care promotes ambivalent sexism, how do we now interpret the phrase, how women be the tastemakers for the shit we making? It doesn't sound very complimentary, and if we're being honest, it sounds more like he's being manipulative to gain some sense of passive control. As the verse comes to a close, we begin to see a building resentment between Kendrick and Drake.
I don't think I've ever had that kind of reaction to somebody unless I hated them. I found out you was the same age as me and I don't like you and you act like a fucking child. I'm gonna be like, what the, this motherfucker's the same age as me and he's acting like that? He demolished this man on his own album and he didn't even know it. This was a ticking time bomb. Watch all these motherfuckers go back and start looking.
This is the climax of the song where he says he became more rude and impatient after finding out he and Drake are the same age. You can literally blame Drake for all of his bad behavior, for all the vanity, for leaving his best friends, and for dying to himself to please the people.
I'm the piece of shit that I am because of Drake. Blame him. Blame Mr. OVO XO. Come on, y'all. That's crazy. This shit probably got overlooked. He met this fool that night. Saw the bitch him. Just like how he saw the hoe and J-Ho. Shout out to Ariel Smoke. And was like, what the fuck? Who the fuck is this dude? Like his music, but I don't like the artist that makes the music. Remember that. That was his quote. He said that about this fool. The song is about him. Looking at vanity as a person and being like, what the fuck, bro? This is what I'll end up at if I bury myself in this shit? Hell no. So that's what we're not doing.
I think it's pretty obvious at this point Kendrick would know that Drake doesn't read or comprehend this stuff because
at all.
Why would he ever allow Kendrick to get on his album and say what he said on Buried Alive?
Right.
I didn't even know that song existed.
I didn't either.
And when I saw it, I was like, what the hell? You should not be in rap if you're gonna let somebody say something like, and then you go on.
You don't edit. There's no editing process. There's no nothing. You
no
don't
screening process. Nobody's reading these things.
No one's going, hey, I don't think he's saying what I think you think he's saying.
Yeah. I don't think we should maybe have you on this guy's song. I don't know.
I think we should pass on this one. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it feels like one of the ones we should cut.
He came back for some more. So
now, before we continue down the timeline, I'd like to bring your attention to one of Kendrick's most popular unreleased songs, "Cartoon and Cereal." Released right before he went on the Club Paradise tour, this track paints a vivid picture of how Kendrick was feeling about his status in the rap game at the time. Now, the hook is basically them going back and forth making gun noises and saying, I run it, as in, I run this rap shit. On the bridge, we see a couple of references to Kendrick's third verse on Poetic Justice. We see him mention looking in the mirror and prove in the same bar. And I honestly believe this connects with the bars Kendrick used on the third verse of Poetic Justice. To start the first verse, Kendrick describes how some of the things he used to reminisce on as a child give him peace of mind. There's multiple references to things from later on in the beef that we could use to reinforce our argument that Dot was sending subliminal shots way before Control. We see Kendrick has an annotation around the bar that mentions euphoria. He says he wants everybody to believe in him. This kid from Compton is going to do great things, and if you riding with him, you will be rewarded. Things get juicier when we get to the end of the verse. He confesses to backdooring you motherfuckers, which means he's planning on going behind somebody's back to betray them. He references the Compton County building, which he ends up mentioning a lot throughout his career. And lastly, he names Scrooge McDuck in a way that sounds like he's calling him out. Interesting. Moving along to the second verse, he opens up about talking about shitting on everybody, and we hear some pretty hard lines with what seems to be a diss theme emerging where words that start with diss are sprinkled over multiple lines. Now moving along to the middle part of the second verse, Kendrick talks about hitting a house lick that went down perfect. Could this be foreshadowing what happens on Good Kid, M.A.A.d City? Then he passively mentions a murder where somebody got 2 shots to the head. Then he mentions duck again, twice, in the next few lines. Now, I don't know about you, but I clearly think this is a shot at Drake. You can think what you want, but Drake literally means a male duck, and he mentioned it twice. Plus, we hear Elmer Fudd say, "Shoot him down," looping as a chant in the background on both of Kendrick's verses. This is the end of Gunplay's verse that takes us to the end of the song. Now, I know Gunplay's lyrics don't carry much weight in terms of the theory, but I found it appropriate that he pledges every word we ever heard was honest. The outro to the verse and the song does play into the theory with the player with lots of game, though. And it says, "to be continued." So, let's continue.
When you look at, like, we'll say, like, conscious rap don't sell or niggas, but then you look at a J. Cole, then you look at a Kendrick Lamar, then you look at the top rapper, comedians, you get a Cat Williams, you get a Dave Chappelle, like, these things do sell. We just take those blueprints like they outliers.
Can you still put Kendrick in the conscious category now?
I don't even like,
because he
I don't even like I don't like the word conscious like means something different to everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's hip hop.
See, I told you he gonna put him in there.
I just think it's hip hop.
He love California and the baby. He not going against that, B.
When Ice Cube say today was a good day, is that conscious rap? It was just a good day, B.
This thing is crazy.
I think
it was just a good day.
I think it's weird that
when he said we gonna be all right, we gonna be all right. It's just a good day.
I think it's weird that in our culture, perfect example is because you say Kendrick Lamar, he throws a shot at Drake and Cole, and they say it's for the sport. But in reality, what really is it?
Well, I mean, he threw a shot back.
I knew he was gonna say that too because they put their first shot out.
How is someone, as an artist, you always supposed to think you're the best? How is someone saying we the best? Like, oh, we this, we that? What's the matter with someone saying that?
Well, I like to look at the context.
But then I saw the video of Kendrick Lamar bigging up Drake, thanking him for taking him on tour and this, that, third. And,
things change.
Yeah. Nah. You never supposed to bite the hand that helped you feed you.
Well, help you feed you, but it's not the one that just fed you. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people that paid you, but that don't mean you loyal to each person.
Listen, if my man right here, if he takes me, pulls and pulls me up, I'm never gonna shit on him.
Unless he shits on you and you like, damn, what was that about?
Who he's from California, you don't understand.
No, I'm just
he's
listen,
not going against Kendrick, but don't you
understand?
We're now coming to the point in the timeline leading up to the release of Good Kid, M.A.A.d City. Before we delve into that, we have to take a look at the Heart Part 3, which was released 2 days before the album came out. Now with this song, I'm going to go through the lyrics to highlight the parts that connect to the diss in Poetic Justice, as well as other major overall themes in Kendrick's music. From the jump, he's framing his career as a continuation of Pac's. Notice he said Pac. He looks like he made a reference to the intro on Buried Alive before he uses Aaliyah as a homonym for a Learjet. He made sure she wasn't missing from this one, huh? The G5 and G's Give Me High Fives will definitely come up later, as well as the part about being real. There wasn't much considered in this section, but the part where he said, "I never thought your favorite rapper would want a verse" is interesting. It's not even a question that the most popular rapper at this time was Drake. Sure, he could have been talking about someone else, but I can't deny it looks suspicious. The last part comes off like an ultimatum where he has to make a decision that could be life-threatening. From my perspective, Ride the Beat alludes to this decision affecting his music career just as much as his life. There's not much to consider in this section except a couple of lines. "I need to find a better way to take your fans now" is crazy. I feel like this was a personal shot. If you think about it another way, he's basically saying you don't deserve your fans. This next part makes me feel like Dot knew how all of this would play out. When he and Drake started beefing publicly, one of the main narratives became that Drake helped Dot jumpstart his career by taking him on the Club Paradise tour with him. Now that he's come home, he wants to be clear. We never asked for no handout. And in actuality, Drake was the one who was adamant about Kendrick coming on tour with him. In this last line, we see that Kendrick is more than willing to play the game, even though it seems like it may be another version of gunplay. In this section, we see a few more themes being repeated from earlier in the song. This is the end of Kendrick's first verse. Holler back comes up later on in another song, but Live Your Life in the Matrix is a direct callback to Kendrick describing his reality while he was meeting with Drake on Buried Alive. Now, on a completely unrelated note, seeing Kendrick take a shot at falling off almost a dozen years before J. Cole apologized is completely mind-boggling. Oh well. I'd be lying if I said Kendrick's last verse on this song didn't bring it home for me. The proof reference shows up around the same place in the last verse on Poetic Justice. Now, this last reference to Shireen trying to set him up and it coming around full circle, to me, that's a clear metaphor for what goes around comes around. When you consider what happened in the music video and how the circular narrative played out with the reset button technique, this does a great job alluding to Drake being set up on this song. This song does amazing with closing everything out with a bang. We have what may be the first right-wrong reference in this back and forth. While it may come off as simple, a trial is what takes place in order to establish justice in a case. If you saw part 1 in my series, you will know that I believe Drake's use of That Thing was a nod to the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. For those that don't know, That Thing was the lead single off of that project. The view of a body wasted comes up in the Poetic Justice music video as well. But in what could be the most remarkable line in the song, Kendrick calls on one of the alternate meanings of the m.A.A.d acronym. You could say the angry adolescent good kid concept was introduced at this point in the story, and it plays all the way until we hear the other meaning of m.A.A.d on the album. We don't hear any other reference to this acronym in the lyrics, but these translations are extremely important. Continuing with the macabre theme in the story, Kendrick asks us if we will let hip-hop die on October 22nd.
Like, granted, I mean, everybody had their own mind, but some people are more easily influenced than others. I'm just gonna say that shit. It is what it is. So you push your head cannon out here, and you got people latching on to it and reposting it, and it's going viral and shit to the point where it's becoming like a standard. Like, this is fact when it's not. He just made this shit up in the quarter last week. Like, this shit is not facts, bro. But the fact that you put it out here and you allowing people to run with it and saying these things, it just ultimately takes things out of things being enjoyable. Like, it makes me, like, I got tired of hearing everything about the Drake and Kendrick shit because everything that people say on Twitter and all the stories that they make up on there and people making a theory. I'm like, bro, y'all going too far with this shit, bro. Like, I understand Kendrick is deep.
Pause.
I understand that he does things in a way that make you think and things. I understand that. But y'all just going too far with this shit. Y'all not even making this shit enjoyable anymore. Like, if y'all finding Easter eggs and shit, make that shit reasonable, dog. Like, or just let me find the shit. Like, let me find the shit on my own, bro. Like, or some shit like that.
All right, let's get to this main event. We're going to take our time and go through pretty much everything on the album. So buckle up and let's get to it. The Good Kid, Mad City short film was very intentional about telling Kendrick's story from his point of view. They used voicemails left by his parents and moments where he's hanging with his homeboys as skits to tell a complete story about faith and finding yourself. Now, the track list plays a very important role in the short film. Be sure to note all of the tracks with asterisks on them because these are all of the tracks that include skits on the album. The album comes in with a prayer. While it is a beautiful start to the project, at this point we have no idea how important this moment is to the story. Let me point out a few things from this opening prayer. The repetition of sin and sinner is important, especially when you consider the relationship the moon has with the deity Sin. Remember, the full moon was used at the start of the Poetic Justice music video. The phrase "take control over my life" stuck out to me. I'm sure this will come up later, but for now, the idea is that from this day forth, Jesus comes into his life and he gives thanks for saving him with his precious blood. The first track foreshadows a situation where Kendrick is going to meet up with Shireen, and it doesn't go down as well as planned. We don't know exactly what happens, but whatever it wasn't good. What I mainly wanted to take away from this section was how he mentioned Atlanta, her huge ass, and how she drove a Benz. We'll talk about Atlanta and the Benz later on down the line. But that mention of her big ass is interesting, especially when you consider the character Justice and how her feelings about her body play into the Poetic Justice Theory. In the outro to this track, Kendrick's parents start the short film by leaving a voicemail. They use these voicemails in the skits to periodically leave Kendrick with some wisdom and inspiration along his path. It's clear that this is a voicemail because of the recording in the beginning. This is going to come up again later on in the story. So are the 15 minutes and that crazy ass girl Shireen. We already mentioned the county building on Cartoon and Serial, but peep this. While Kendrick may be going to the 11th grade in the story, I believe this could be a metaphor for the 11th track on the album. We'll see what happens once we get there. Now, this was one of my favorite parts of the interaction with his parents. His mom shows a level of concern and care for things that are more important, while Pops is trying to find these dominoes so he can go on with having a good time. He doesn't even notice it's a voicemail at first, but in the end, it doesn't change anything. He's talking to him like he's right there regardless. Pops is a trip. He even said he was ready to take him to the back for a little squabble if he needed to. Now, in terms of the song Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, in case you didn't know, I'll go ahead and tell you right now. This song is a major diss to Drake. This shot is a picture from the music video, which was essentially a funeral turned into a party. You should definitely go back and take a look at it if you haven't seen it, but I wanted to use this shot to sum up what this song was about. Looking at the lyrics, we see the same sinner sin setup in the chorus to start this song as the prayer in the opening track. Now, later on in the chorus, we see Kendrick say he got his music, he would share it, but today it's bitch don't kill my vibe. Who's the bitch he's talking to? Who is out there trying to kill his vibe? Who told him the vibe was all about the woman's taste, that he didn't belong to himself? We'll come back to this. I mean, out the gate on the first verse, we have some serious shade. My man said, look inside of my soul and you can find gold. Now read slow with me. He told him, look inside your soul and you can find out it never exists. I mean, damn.
Damn. Damn!
Shout out to the sister in the comments who suggested I look deeper into what Kendrick had to say about his music with his own words. These highlighted lines are where artists can add genius annotations to their lyrics. We're going to take a look at most of these to see what Kendrick has to say about these songs. For this portion, Kendrick acknowledges that he can feel his life changing. He's growing into himself and there are people trying to hold him back, trying to make him somebody else. Sure, he understands his journey could be dangerous, but he has a different level of enthusiasm. While this dude may have more accolades and attention now, it's more about challenging himself mentally. This is the part of the song for me that reveals there may be more to this than just a random feeling. He mentions that he made a mistake that lives deep in his heart, something similar to falling on his face. I believe that mistake was working with Drake. It's as simple as Kendrick doesn't like the guy, but more importantly, Drake goes against everything Kendrick stands for in hip-hop. Kendrick knows that by working with him, people will naturally try to group them in together like they are rapping about the same life, at this age, chasing the same girls, and speaking from similar perspectives shaped by the same experiences. Dot knew this couldn't be further from the truth, because he knew Drake was on some manipulative foolishness. At this time, it really didn't make any sense, but as we already saw from Mother Rose, it was masked in benevolence. No wonder Dot was on here burning bridges. I mean, why do you have that little candlelight? Now, the first part of this section was annotated. He literally said the mistake was related more to the music, a situation where he followed a trend. He said he's reflecting on the music and him getting to where he wanted to go in life. Reflecting on the music and him getting to where he wanted to go in life. If you'll allow me to pull my shoulder out, I believe Kendrick intended to diss Drake on Section 80. He may have ghostwritten for Drake in the past, but he definitely wanted to diss him from the jump. Think, why would he give him Section 80 to hear it first? Obviously, it went over everybody's head, and instead of starting the battle then, Drake asked him to be on the album, then he asked him to go on tour, and Dot went along with it because it meant being in front of larger crowds and getting some much needed exposure at the start of his career. Now, at this point, the mistake he made was probably working with Drake and going on tour with him, because now everybody assumes they're the same and they're cool with each other, when the music clearly shows us that Dot wanted to distance himself. Then he says he's wearing his guilty heart on his sleeve, in a flick. What song on the track list is named after a flick? Just read this for a second. Pause it if you have to.
A few moments later.
He tells you himself that this line is one of his favorites. It's carrying a lot of weight. He's putting his mistakes out there for people to latch onto and know they can make a difference within themselves too. I believe when he met Drake, he played it all the way cool, knowing how he felt. He gave him Section 80 to see how he felt about it, testing the waters. And I'm sure Drake, even if he heard it, he probably didn't listen to it. I'm sure he had a lot to say about Kendrick's talent, how good the production sounded, but nothing to say about the message in the lyrics. He just wanted to get his money and see what's up with these hoes. Kendrick knows that at one point he probably felt the same. He can admit that his purpose did look like yours, but the approach to the music is different. For Drake, the attention, the money, the women, that's his purpose. And while that's all well and good, Kendrick could just not vibe with that, or how he clearly goes about it. It's clear to me that this is why he wants to burn that bridge. When we get to the second chorus, we see these changes in further detail. There's people around him that just want to be famous. I mean, such euphoria in these lines. Whoever he's talking to, Kendrick recognizes that for them, it's about nothing but that almighty dollar. He continues, you're only co-signing what radio does, what plays on the radio. We are not the same. I'm looking right past you, right? Right? You living behind the mirror. I mean, this shit is vital. I know you had to. Die in a pitiful vein. All the vanity I know. Blame it on yourself, Mr. OVO. You can stay stuck in a box. I'm on some other shit. I'm busting out the box you tried to put me in, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Now, I know we went through that last bit kind of fast, but I hope you get the message. On this bridge, he says, you better hide them feelings of feeling emotions inferior. Because I'll really take your girl, bro. And if you know, this isn't any regular girl. This could be one of those times where girlfriend could be a metaphor for hip-hop. While this isn't an annotation from Kendrick, this is a pretty common assumption. 16 contributors on this one line is proof. In the outro skit, we hear Kendrick hopping in the car with his friends to spit some freestyles, and that takes us into the next track.
the cornerstone of gangbanging is street urban culture in general, but especially gangbanging is masculinity. And all means. That's what snitching is about. Snitching is about, we don't respect you because you wasn't accountable. Snitching ain't if you seen some
Snitches ain't accountable.
50-year-old woman, some 50-year-old man raping some, you know, or sexually assaulting some 14-year-old girl. Nobody gonna call you a rat if you tell the police. Now, if you go to jail for your own case and then you tell later, you're a rat. But it's about two people committing a crime or two people that are criminals, and then to not be held accountable for your own crime, you inform on somebody else's crime. It all go back into accountability. So that's where gangbanging really teaches you man shit. Like, you gotta be accountable. If you say something fucked up, niggas want, like, yeah, I need to see it. Like, I need to see you. So that's where we clash with the internet. That's why it's hard for me to really feel like that in this space, because it's like this whole space is built off of men not being accountable. You know, if you say something raggedy, you want everybody to let it go and consider it content. Now, I'm not letting shit go.
I hate that.
Like I said, the skit at the end of Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe leads us right into the next song, which is Backseat Freestyle. While this song does have a place in the overall story, I believe this song is not part of the short film. It's meant to be a single because it showcases Kendrick's talent as an MC, while highlighting his fun, goofy side. I want to point out that from the jump, Dot compares his dream to Martin Luther King's. He doesn't explicitly say what his dream is yet, but we can say the chorus kind of gives us a clue of money, power, and respect. Now, it may come off a bit random, but he makes a distinction by telling us what's going to happen if we don't apply that respect to his mind. I'm not going to dig deep on this Kendrick annotation, but he basically recognizes that he was really being as ignorant as possible on the track. And that's exactly what he does. On the first verse, he's telling us that even though he's living his life in the Matrix, his mind is living on cloud 9, while his 9 is never on vacation. We'll talk more about this when we get to the 9th track, which is Swimming Pools, but this number motif caught my eye again. Now, to look at it more simply, he implies that while he's holding his 9, he prays you netters is hating, 'cause shooters go after Judas, Jesus Christ. If he lives life on his knees, ain't no need to do this. So that's the why. He don't want to live life on his knees.
Pause.
Metaphorically. That's why he's doing this. Why he's backdooring you motherfuckers. You backstabbing Judases. Let's continue. In the post-chorus, he's bragging about his access to women. Remember, he said his vice was similar, but he still wants his money, power, and respect. The last one is better. In the last post-chorus, he lets you know it's go time. From this point, the song turns up. The tempo shift changes the mood from silly and goofy to serious and aggressive, like he's rushed us on the beat. One of the last things I wanted to bring your attention to is how he says he's never living life confined, never stuck in a box, even if he was blind. He could spit this game right on time, on Compton. On the next song, I believe this is when the main story in the short film starts. This is a true story told by Kendrick Lamar, on Rosecrans, ya bish. The opening chorus is melodic and immediately tunes you in to the setting being told in this scene. He asserts that we ain't asking for no favors, no handouts, and for him and his friends, they will quote-unquote rush you quick because it's funny. After the beat switches to the next part of the song, he goes into detail on this type of scenario on the second verse. He wants to be clear. He never was a gangbanger, but when he's with the homies, things can get a little violent.
We're probably the worst. That's fair. But
like if a nigga got one leg, y'all are cracking on his leg.
Right off the rip. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know why they thought this was gonna work out with this nigga, man. This nigga, like, All that good kid shit, this nigga
You know
is
what
not
it
a
is,
good
though?
kid, B.
Nobody
Not a
really
good kid.
knows his affiliation. Even-
And that's what I'm saying, but he does it in so many weird ways,
Yeah,
right? Where
yes.
you listen to Humble, which is the #1 song on the record, and he's really saying some Pyru shit on the record.
But
I
we
mean,
don't know that.
where he's saying AM to the PM, PM to the AM funk. P-funk is a Pyru word. You're missing it. This is the street urban culture, so he's popping it to the niggas that know. So, but then the average person, like, and I think that was, you know, Cuz mistake too with Drake, where it's like, he's like me. No, Cuz is not like you, my boy.
And not like us.
Yeah, you are not like this nigga. It's different. You know what I mean? And the battle showed you, even Cuz, look at their energies after. Like, Cuz, this nigga ain't did one vocal interview.
None.
Like, this shit is nothing. Look at Cuz in the videos.
Come on, Kendrick,
He's
you
moving
gotta sit down
around
with us, B.
nonchalant. He's moving around nonchalant. Like, look at it. It's like he don't even care. Because he don't even care that he just ruined this man like that. Because he's like, oh, this nigga had it coming. And that's how we be feeling.
When the video came out, I'll say, yo, S, his wife is dancing in the video.
Oh, what do you like?
I said, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
I said, when you got the wife dancing, and you know, I don't want to say what type of dance, because that's not my world to say that. I said,
dancing like the culture. But again, it's one of them things where it's like, so like, to your original point, like, if he came, nobody would want to, like, we just gonna make fun of you. If niggas see you on the street, you be like, you not like us, bitch ass nigga. Like, that's all you gonna get. Nobody finna rush, cuz.
On the last verse of the song, he tells us a story about a home invasion he and his homies participated in. While things went smoothly, he recognizes he and the homies got lucky. At this point, we can't deny that he and his homies are a bad influence. The song is titled The Art of Peer Pressure, but they all are in it together. No one is influencing these good kids more than this mad city. As we go into the outro skit, we hear how Kendrick seems to be a little faded. We didn't mention it, but earlier in the song, Kendrick says while he's usually drug-free, you can sometimes catch him smoking a blunt with the homies. This will play out more in the story later, but this is an example of one of his vices. For now, I want to bring your attention to the shenanigans. Why is Kendrick being so secretive about it? For future reference in his creative process, wrong place, wrong time. First it was game right on time, and now it's wrong place, wrong time. Okay. Something is absolutely going on here, for sure. In the next part of the skit, they talk about how they are going to split up because they know Dot trying to get with Shireen tonight. It's time to, as they say, to get active. And this leads us right into Money Trees. This next song, in my opinion, is one of the main setups for the Poetic Justice Theory. We already talked about the Drake reference to Money Trees back on the Resistance from Thank Me Later. Let's see what Kendrick has to say about this topic from his point of view. From the top, it's about him and his homies trying to come up in this world. That's why they hit that house lick. Because, they're trying to get it. Now, point your attention to the next line. Dreams of living life like rappers do. Is this the dream that Kendrick mentioned back on Backseat Freestyle? Let's see. He talks about how they use rapping as an escape, an exercise for their mind, a way for their imagination to take them out of the situation they're in. But now they see this bitch as an easy come up, someone who didn't come from the same situation they did. We also see what looks like Dot bragging about bagging Shireen, but getting burned. Immediately, there's an ominous feeling that things are not what they seem. Kendrick tells us that this part in the story isn't meant to be taken literally, but as a metaphor, for both, fucking with Shireen and for getting burned. In the chorus, when he says Holly Berry or Hallelujah, he's saying you have a choice for how you go about it. Probably my favorite part about this hook is he literally tells you he's done all of these different things just to say Money Trees is the perfect place for shade. Kendrick then goes into further detail on these bars. He says you can either go right or you can go left and get crazy with us. Hallelujah being the more good in him, and Holly Berry being the actual vice of what's going down. The lust for money. A quick check. Now, pick your poison and let us know what it is. But you have to tell me right now because we don't have time to wait. I'm rushing you. The second half of the chorus is not all fun and games. This part in the song is showing you that the seeds of money trees are not always positive. Money can make your lady turn on you, make you forget about your homies, and make you switch up your brand trying to chase a trend. Yeah, it can make us all rich, but that's just how he feels. And honestly, that's just the way it is. We open the second verse with those same dreams of living life like rappers do. I mean, we may be living in the Matrix, but we plan on living cordial. When we get back to reality, we see something different. I mean, we are so poor, like, we Poe, y'all. When you research Edgar Allan Poe's story, you'll see he struggled with finances all of his life. It's what drove him to success. He manufactured beefs with his contemporaries at the time to not only stand up for his integrity and the art of writing, but surely he wanted to find fame and fortune for himself as well. When we get to the end of the verse, he's not shy about saying your hood is a pot of gold. And haven't we been trying to find gold in these lines? When he says, we gonna crash your hood when nobody's home, is he talking about aiming at your head? 'Cause sure, your neighborhood can be quote unquote your hood, but you do wear a hood on your head. And when I think about it, saying nobody's home could describe someone who is mentally absent or oblivious to what's going on.
That boy is good.
In the outro skit, we hear from Kendrick's parents for the first time since the opening track. It sounds like Moms is trying to step out to have a good time, but Pops has something else on his mind. Her big old fat ass. Respectfully. And what do you know? That leads us right into Poetic Justice. Now, if you remember from the film and from part 2, Justice, played by Janet Jackson, had two things about her that I like to point out. She did not like the idea of her ass being fat or too big, and she did not like being called a bitch. If I know this, I know that you know that I know that Kendrick knows this. So in the intro to the song, who is he talking to when he's calling someone a bad bitch? Looking at Kendrick's annotation, he's telling you that there's more to this song. Sure, it may be a radio record or whatever, and it's a love story about Shireen, but really, it's a thriller about a promiscuous woman. I don't know about you, but I believe this confirms that Shireen, this promiscuous woman, is a metaphor for hip-hop. The rap game, if you will. Taking a look at the first verse on Poetic Justice, we see these two bars are the only ones that Kendrick decided to leave annotations on. For the first one, we've said how this could be inspired by Tupac's poem, A Rose That Grew From Concrete. From Kendrick's perspective, he's using this flower as a metaphor for this woman. But as we already discussed, this is not a literal woman, but hip-hop we're talking about. He knows the history and background of this woman, but homie may not. I mean, what do you think he meant by saying this flower may be full of bees and no honey? Now, with this second annotation, I believe Kendrick is stating his mission. He's not just speaking to this woman, to hip-hop, or to Drake, but to everyone when he says, when you're in the mood for empathy, it's blood in my pen. He says, we see this woman is attractive, but there's two sides to every story and much more to unpack beneath the surface. He doesn't want to talk bad about this woman, about hip-hop, but he does want to help you see what he sees. When we're talking about saving someone from their own destruction, you need to have empathy. Kendrick in the opening prayer mentions how he was saved with Jesus' precious blood. Could it be when he is saying that there's blood in his pen, he's referring to the blood of Jesus? Based on the teachings of Christianity, the salvation we all seek starts with love. Kendrick knows that, and that's why he's doing this, because he loves us as Jesus did. Of course, not to the same extent, but to the extent that he can with his music. The music video shows you that he's willing to sacrifice himself for you, for this woman, for hip hop. That's the real love story that underlines this thriller. The love triangle that really started this rap beef. In the outro skit for Poetic Justice, we see that this is the continuation of the part of the story that was teased in the opening track. He's being rushed by those two guys in the black hoodies, and they are pressing him hard, asking all kinds of questions. Who he is, where he's from, and what the fuck he's doing here. It doesn't matter that he's here to see Shireen. If he can't answer these questions, it's a wrap. Get out the car before I snatch you out that motherfucker, homie. Homie, sorry.
Me and my homies argue about that all the time, and I'm like, I can't. I'm way too much into hip hop and too much into being a man to be okay with saying something I don't mean, or saying something that I gotta mean, but then act like I didn't say it, or act like I'm not tripping. I'm tripping. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna say nothing on none of them cameras that I don't mean.
You've never been like that.
And if I really got a problem with you, I don't need to be saying it on camera anyway. I need to see you, and we need to address the problem.
As people who are not from the West Coast and seeing how the battle unfolded between Drake and Kendrick, something you said a few moments ago, like Dot want to whoop on Drake. The fact that you're able to say that, like, what is it that we don't understand that was brewing?
Oh, between them?
Yeah. Not like on some personal private shit, but like the mentality.
I mean, it's as private as it is public. It's
Because it seems like you knew it was coming.
Yeah, I told him first.
You told Drake?
No, I told Dot.
That
I told Dot on a tour bus. I'm like, he's a different kind of guy. But I didn't know how to explain it because I wasn't savvy in hip hop at first. I was just a crip. They used to sell water and I could rap. Feel me? When I got more savvy into what hip hop was about and what marketing was about and what records was about, then I was able to articulate. I was informed enough to start articulating things that I felt or saw. If I couldn't see it at first, like when I first talked to Dot, I wouldn't say, oh, I would have never called him out of his name. Like, I would have never called Drake a bitch nigga because I knew he wasn't quite of the ilk. Like, you know what I mean? If even when shit was happening and you would hear stories of somebody bullying him or Puff slapping on him or Tip pissing on him. Not like that. I would kind of be more like, why would y'all do that?
You heard about that, right?
Tip doing what?
T.I. peed on him.
Tip man pissed on him. Or he was pissing next to him in the urinal and the piss got on him, dude drunk, but they said it was with intention. But
you never heard that?
Yeah, but this is my thing. When those moments when they were popping up and we in conversation hearing about them, I used to kind of be more upset at them. Like, why would y'all bully this man? You know what I mean? Like, that's not cool. Like, that's how I feel like Puff. Like, why would you do that to him? I mean, now Cole, shout out to Cole, because the homie told me he did his stuff. But I'm like, Drake is not that kind of guy that we all knew he wasn't.
Get points off.
Somewhere along the line, he forgot he wasn't.
He went from Drake to Cole.
No, because I'm saying, because they're saying Puff did the same thing. I know. That's my point.
A lot of people don't talk about the Cole and Puff story. They keep it, especially on the East Coast.
I was saying, Brody did his stuff, so I got respect for that. But I used to be kind of upset when they would do that to Drake, because I'm like, bro, y'all know he not on that type of program. Now, somewhere along the line, he convinced himself.
You got with tough niggas. Ain't that? I already know where you're going. Ain't that what happens? What's that?
No, you know what he did? No, you know what he did? He gangbanged.
He got with some tough niggas.
That's gangbanging.
He started banging.
No.
He started banging.
Because we'll call you a mark. We'll call you a mark. Like, if you a nigga that's tough with just us, you's a bitch.
All right, when he got money and he got with tough niggas and he thought he was tough. Doesn't that occur? Does that or does that not occur?
It does occur.
It's very empowering.
Thank you.
It's very crippling.
And niggas that you know is tough, they get money off you, that they might handle a nigga for you.
For sure. But even in his situation, I say that point to say that I never liked that. So it was never like a negative thing towards him. Like, I don't dislike him, but to your original point, it's like, one thing people in LA can smell and will press the line on is if what you're doing is cap. Like, we are notoriously fucked up at making sure people know your ass is cap. It's like something that just breed in us. Like, if you see somebody coming up, if you see a rapper coming up, they're gonna tell you about this nigga. Hip hop, I actually think hip hop is like that. For sure, niggas, especially in New York and LA, we for sure gonna air your ass out. If you had a job doing some bullshit at first, we telling on you.
That's a fact.
Yeah, that niggas did this.
It's the nigga news.
Yeah.
It's the nigga news.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So
he ain't all that.
That was gonna happen to me with Dot because Dot, everybody think Dot is this good kid. Everybody think Kendrick is this good kid in the Mad City. This nigga is not that good of a kid.
He's a menace? He's like Usher, he's a menace?
He's mean, yo, by what he's done, you can tell he's mean,
He's
bro.
a mean
He's
person,
vicious.
bro. And he's my guy.
Yo, the nigga Top, dog, I met Top before. Top is mean. Them niggas aura, didn't I just tell that when it came out? I said, them niggas aura is mean, nigga.
And there's a confusion because the title of that album, but I don't think people was listening to the material. And I'm like, listen to the shit. This nigga is funny. He got 1,000 jokes. He not some nigga that like
he's witty. He can snap.
There's a weird rhetoric that this is some kind of cool guy. This is this nigga working on himself. This is not good. Cuz is like a raggedy, like Dot is some shit. You know what I mean? He gonna clown you all day. I didn't have to stop this nigga from fighting on tour buses. All kind of crazy. He is not. He's giving off what he wants to be. He's setting a goal, reaching his goal, and inspiring kids to be better humans. But
He's
that's
mean,
because,
bro.
Yeah,
I said on camera, I said, if I was niggas, I would stop fucking with this nigga. Because this nigga is mean, bro.
Now with the track Good Kid, I didn't see much related to extending the story in the short film, or the Poetic Justice Theory for that matter. I believe he truly wanted to use this song as an opportunity to tell his story, from his perspective. This song does do a great job of providing insight into why he is the way that he is. It details some of the things he's seen as he shares some of the questions on his mind. He believes we all came into this world as good kids, but in this song, he's highlighting the adversity. He even enlisted the help of hip-hop veteran producer Pharrell to help get this message across. Now, I'm sure this will come up later, but I just wanted to point out the use of these walls in the opening bar for this song. Now, on the next track, Mad City, Kendrick tells us this is a trip down memory lane. There's not much to this song that adds to the story or the theory either, but there are a few bars that made me pause and consider what he might have been trying to say with his words. I noticed he mentioned euphoria again. At this point, it seems like this was always one of those ideas he planned to use if it ever came to it. Cause what the fuck? And what the fuck does hope euphoria can slow dance with society even mean? I'm so glad he decided to annotate this one. He basically says we all have a part to play in this madness. He dreams of a day when we all can find the place where we overcome temptation, avoid trials and tribulations, and hope for peace in this mad city. Now this part was funny. We see Kendrick's use of repetition again in this anaphora where he says, AKs, ARs, A y'all, duck. That's what mama said when she was eating that free lunch. This is a whole double entendre. If there's a wall of bullets coming from all different types of guns, of course you would duck so you wouldn't get hit. But duck is also a culinary delicacy. So eating literal duck at a free lunch, while an exciting proposition, is a huge contradiction. Now, there is another type of duck he could be pointing and shooting at, but I digress. When we get to the chorus, we hear, man down, where you from? To me, this is a callback to the Poetic Justice music video and the skit at the end of the song. Man down points to the bodies laying in the street after they'd been shot. And where you from was one of the questions that was asked in the skit at the end of the track. Now there is a beat switch where Compton legend m.A.A.d hops on the track to Wake Your Punk Ass Up. The tempo definitely turns up during this part of the song. He spits some bars about his experience smoking his first blunt and how it was laced with something that had him tweaking and foaming at the mouth. This is definitely something that would make me mad. In his annotation, he describes how he's come to accept and adapt to this life and his hometown. The stuff he's been through is enough to either drive you crazy or make you numb to all the madness going on. This is just a peek behind the curtain. On the last verse, he poses a series of questions to basically paint a picture about the world he was brought up in. Now, this first question to me is potentially another example of numbers telling a story. Of course, there is no 16th track on this album, but Poetic Justice is the 6th track. And the 16 could be the verse where he got Drake to bury himself in the lyrics. As this verse closes out, he provides us with the main meaning of m.A.A.d, M-A-A-D, which stands for My Angels on Angel Dust. Now, as this song ends, I'm thinking about the significance of the other meaning, My Angry Adolescence Divided, which was revealed on the Heart Part 3. If you think about it, this song was the pre-release introducing this album. And this is the part of the story that leads up to the finale. From this point on, the story is no longer about the good kid. It's about how the good kid responds to the mad city.
Seeing it because I listened to your album, read all the press on you, and I thought, this is an angry young man. He is a young man who's a little bit mad about the situation.
Everybody says that. And then me playing a murderer didn't help.
Right, exactly. He's a real angry young man. Yeah.
But I'm a human being, you know what I'm saying? And I go through smiles, tears, laughter, all that. You know, I'm a Gemini too, which makes it even that much more complicated. So I can flip any second. But relatively, if I'm happy, everybody's happy. But as long as there's things going on that people are not happy at, that's when Tupac will start flipping.
Shooting began in April 1992. Juice had been released a few months before, and Brenda's Got a Baby was topping the charts. But that same month, while on a Texas highway, 19-year-old Ronald Ray Howard was pulled over for a broken headlight in a GMC Jimmy. When the cop approached his window, Howard fired a shot, killing him. He was listening to Tupac's Soulja's Story when he was pulled over. Howard's defense lawyer would claim that the music he was listening to contributed to his crime. This wasn't the first time rap music was villainized. NWA and Ice-T had also been accused of corrupting the youth through their lyrics. But this crime would transform Tupac from a rising young artist, known for leading the new African Panthers and speaking out against social issues, to, as Slate reporter Joel Anderson described him, America's most dangerous rapper.
To me, you can't be a revolutionary. And to me, that's what a gangster is. I mean, that's what they're trying to be, revolutionary. They just don't know that word, so they say gangsters. Because a gangster really don't have a gun, got money, you know what I'm saying? So if you want to be revolutionary, you can't be a revolutionary and not love the people. I can't go out there and say it's all about the young black males and not love them, you know? But got to love our sisters. We got to be down for each other. That's priority.
From here, we go back into the short film where it looks like Dot was jumped after trying to link up with Shireen. They pass him a bottle of some drink to help him feel better. From there, it takes us into the next song, which is Swimming Pools. This was one of the lead singles, and it was universally a club hit that people thought was a song celebrating drinking. In actuality, it was about addressing peer pressure and alcoholism. To quote the Genius bio, this is an introspective take on social pressure and self-defeating attitudes that drive people to drink. While this is an important message, we don't find anything other than this portion of the song relating this alcoholic experience to hanging out with Shireen. He's calling for her, like he was in the beginning of the album, wondering where she is taking him. In the outro skit to this song, we find Kendrick and the homies back in the car. It sounds like they're pulling up to get some get back for Doc getting jumped over Shireen earlier. They are planning to unalive the guys that jumped him, but what actually happens is one of the homies they're with ends up getting shot and unalived. I want to remind you of the number theme from Backseat Freestyle when he said he was living on cloud 9 and this 9 is never on vacation. Well, this being the 9th track on the album, I believe that bar turned out to be way more profound than we thought. This is arguably one of Kendrick's best songs, both parts. Starting with Sing About Me, he comes in letting you know that when it's all said and done, he hopes you tell his story. And not just his story, but the story of the ones closest to him. The first verse is told from the perspective of one of Kendrick's homies, who was the brother of the homie that passed away the day before. He talks about the troubles that plague his mind and that he wishes he could borrow some of Kendrick's peace. This is probably in reference to the hopes and dreams that Kendrick has mentioned previously on this album. The homie knows that he doesn't have the freedom to escape his reality, even mentally. If you haven't heard this song, I suggest you go back and listen to it. I'm going to skip to the third verse to where the message in the lyrics is more relevant to the Poetic Justice Theory. While I'm certainly not trying to reduce this song to make a point about a rap beef, I am pointing out how themes from this story point back to the theory. He opens the verse mentioning that he's looking in the mirror thinking about death, specifically his death. He ponders that if he does happen to die soon, he hopes his death brings salvation by drowning a demon in the blood of Jesus. And man, you don't even have to be a Christian to see how that's so tough. Looking at the lyrics that are highlighted, we can see he confesses to writing some raps that gave him the scent of a reaper, meaning either he's a major killer or somebody is coming to kill him. These rhymes ensure that he's built an allegiance with some other entity on the other side. Could it be Tupac? Could it be his homie from the first verse or his brother? I'm not sure, but he's over here cooking up something spiritually. And then we see that mirror again. In Kendrick's annotation, he describes how crazy it is to have to come to grips with this reality. You have to look in the mirror and believe that even though there's many things you can't control, you can control how you face the adversity in your life, because it isn't going anywhere. He closes this annotation saying how he's chosen to face this reality head on. He's resolved to the idea that there's a good chance things could go left at any moment, and that even as a kid, death could be waiting for you right around the corner. He says he's not sure why he's infatuated with death, but how could he not be? He's been exposed to it in so many ways on so many different levels. Kendrick admits that this could be a negative side effect of being a dreamer. The mind can play tricks on you if you let it. So this is the duality of his dreams. He dreams of living life like a rapper, as well as dying in the street in a gunfight. As he closes out Sing About Me, he declares that he's writing these stories and rapping these rhymes because they need to be told. He's fighting for our rights, even when we're wrong, because we are not all to blame for this mad city. He understands there's more to it than just what appears on the surface. He hopes that his work will speak for itself, and when he's no longer here to defend what's right, we'll keep his legacy alive and remember what he's done for us.
And he says, and they say communications, Drake continuing on in the verse, and they say communications save relations, I can tell, but I can never right my wrongs unless I write them down for real. And this is where...
This is a huge diss.
This is the biggest diss in hip-hop history, and no one has ever fucking... anything I've seen online, no one has discovered this.
And I think it's because it precedes everyone finding out that Drake doesn't write his own shit.
Yes, it does. And no one goes back to read this.
Yeah,
right?
So then Poetic Justice takes on a new meaning.
Yes.
Because it's like he has now gotten Drake to say, I'll never right my wrongs unless I write them down for real. He does not write his own stuff.
No.
He will never write his wrongs because he can never admit that he does not write his lyrics.
Because the facade will then be exposed.
Yeah, and that is poetic justice.
It
Again,
is.
another layer of poetic justice.
And it's so fitting, too, that he would name that song that, because what does it do? It pays homage to Tupac, his idol, who was this prolific writer, performer, you know, like a true artist.
Civil rights activist.
Civil rights activist, a true artist in every sense of the word. Like, there were times, and we're big on the Jimmy and Dre documentary, when Dre starts talking about Tupac, he said he would go in the booth, write a verse, put the track up, boom, do another one, do another one, do another one. He was so prolific.
So talented. And he had so much to say.
At such a young age.
And maybe that's why, and maybe this is part of the point too. Maybe that's why Drake can't write. He has nothing to say.
He has nothing that hardened him.
Think about Eminem. Think about Kendrick. Think about Pac. Think about all of these guys. Even Dre and all of his writers, they have something to say.
Yes.
They have,
NWA.
Yeah, NWA, Wu-Tang.
Wu-Tang Clan.
These are people who have something to say, and they literally can't stop.
No.
And they have never stopped. It pours out of them.
Yes.
And Drake, meanwhile, is blasted all over the radio, and he
profiting from it.
And profiting from it, he can't even put pen to paper and he can't write anything.
As we transition to the dying of thirst portion of the song, we see Kendrick and the homies after what happened at the end of swimming pools. It's clear they are very upset about what happened, and it looks like right now they're trying to decide what they're going to do next. The message in this song was a lot darker and way more serious, but there are still some lines I want to bring to your attention. This bar could be describing what it's like working with someone you know you can't trust. I also love the nod to Boys in the Hood, which, like Poetic Justice, was a film written and directed by John Singleton. In one of the last verses, when Kendrick and his friends are making plans about what they're about to do, he mentions loading up in the back of the Buick. And while he doesn't mention this anywhere else, I wonder if this is somehow related to his GNX album, which was named after the GNX car made by Buick. To close out the song, his mom says that she wants him to go see a pastor. Whatever is burdening him and his heart, the truth will set him free. She says he needs to be cleansed and he needs to pray. Returning to the skit from the beginning of the song, we see that an elderly woman has approached Kendrick and the homies after recognizing they are angry about what has just happened. She shares with them a good word, explaining that they are dying of thirst, and that means they need holy water. They need to be baptized in the Spirit of the Lord. She asks them if they're ready to receive God as their personal Savior. Recognizing this as a moment of pain and agony for them, she then asks them to repeat after her. And what do you know? They recite the prayer at the opening of the album. Only this time, it happens at a point when they could have just as easily decided to reject God and go ahead with their plans to shoot up the block. But they say this prayer, and in this moment, if they believe, they will get past this. Before we move on, I believe it's important to point out that this elder was played by the infamous Dr. Maya Angelou. If you remember from part 2, she also played Aunt June in the Poetic Justice film. During the filming, she had a powerful moment with Pac that reminded me of this situation with Kendrick and his homies on the album.
Teacher? I'm tough. Yeah. I'm tough. I'm loving. And I'm tough. I work very hard. And I want young men and women to know you have to work very hard. With Richard Pryor and Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, a number of the men, especially men, but the women too, they have come here to my home in North Carolina to talk to me and to ask me how do I feel about this or that. And they are all my children. I accept that they're my children. I accept that you are. You see, it's important for me to understand that. Then I must tell you the truth as I understand it. Because you may be the last person I'll speak to. Life is life and death is death. And so I must be telling the truth when I speak.
You did that with Tupac, when Tupac was a bit out of what is in his own space on Poetic Justice. You pulled him aside and you instructed him.
Yeah.
What was he like?
I didn't know who he was, you know. I knew, I'd heard, he was into a big row with another young man. And so I said to him, may I speak to you? And he was cursing. Whew, I wouldn't give a... I said, I understand that, but let me speak to you. If these mother... I said, I got you. However, let me speak to you. And finally, I said, when was the last time anyone told you how important you are? Did you know our people stood on auction blocks, were sold, bought and sold? Did you know, so that you could stay alive today? And finally, he heard me and stopped talking and started to weep. And I put my arms around him and I walked him back into the arena and he quieted. And I went back to my trailer and Janet Jackson came running and she said, Dr. Angelo, I don't believe you actually spoke to Tupac Shakur. So I said, darling, I don't know 6-pack, 4-pack. I had never heard of him. But I mean, that wasn't in my world.
In closing, Dr. Angelou, as the elder, says to them that this is a new day, a start of a new life, their real life. This takes us into the next track, the 11th track, Real. To recall the conversation from the voicemail at the start of the album, he has made it past the streets, past the things and the people that were holding him back. He's gotten to a point where he can be himself, where he can be real. Now, when he's looking in the mirror, he's happy with what he sees and what he has overcome to get to this point. We're going to skip the first 2 verses as those are about what Kendrick loves outside of himself, his homies and the promiscuous woman, who both represent the streets. When we dig deep into the lyrics on the 3rd verse, we see that he opens by saying he's the same as the people he mentioned before. He then talks about all the things he loves, including the girl and the homie. In fact, he loves them so much that he doesn't love anything else. But connecting this question shared by all 3 characters, what love got to do with it when you don't love yourself? That question is so profound. Kendrick says that the things that he does love are really things he chooses to indulge in, and he doesn't want to change them. They all connect to what he says on the last line of the verse. After this question, he flips his stance from loving so much to questioning should he hate the things he does love. We see another example of anaphora with how he asks, should I hate all of these different things? Things he's familiar with while living inside this mad city. The streets, the women, and all the other vices he's been indulging in. He now realizes that none of that makes him real. Now, if we fast forward to what he said on Euphoria, it's always been about love and hate. And in this case, he's definitely the biggest hater. After Kendrick's verse, we hear his pops come in and leave a voicemail, letting him know what it is. It's reminiscent of a conversation Craig had with his pops on Friday. Anybody can kill a man. That don't make you real. Real is responsibility. Real is taking care of your family. Real is God, Netta. We then hear his parents come back to leave another voicemail. You can hear the care and concern in their voice, but they are used to this feeling. They know how it is either way. They just hope he's okay. His mom comes in to tell him that Top Dawg called the house for him and his friend to come down to the studio, encouraging his dreams to make some music that means something, and a little something they can step to. In the final voicemail skit, Kendrick's mom brings it all together, letting him know that if he does make it big, he can give back to Compton with his words of encouragement. We hear the tape stop and fast forward, closing the loop from the voicemail recording on the first track. This takes us into the final song on the album, Compton. While this song featuring Dr. Dre is basically a dedication to his hometown, he does have some moments where you can clearly see he's popping his shit a little bit. There's really not much to add in terms of the theory, but these bars are what you say when you know you created a classic. King Kendrick, indeed. He's feeling like the man, but he's still ready to call anybody out. After writing this beautiful masterpiece of an album, he's proclaiming himself to be Kendrick Conan. At the same time, he's asking you, where's your sword at? But you know the old adage, the pen is mightier than the sword. That, in and of itself, is him disrespecting anybody else's pen. Did he really just say, F your position, hold this L? In the outro to this song, we hear Kendrick yell to his mom that he's going to use the van real quick. While he says that he's going to be back in 15 minutes, we're being led to believe that this is a different situation from the one he was in at the beginning of the album. It could be a return to the beginning, but I believe it's an acknowledgement of the lessons learned along the way. When he leaves the house this time, he's more aware of the potential pitfalls that may be waiting for him at every corner. In summary, I believe these first three songs set the foundation for the story. There's a bit of foreshadowing on Shireen, but nothing else progresses the short film. Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe might be one of the best diss songs though. This is the main plot of the short film getting off the ground. We experience a full range of emotions in these songs, and Poetic Justice falls at the heart of the album. This is also the major pivot point where the energy in the story shifts and things spiral out of control. On these next three songs, he hops out of the story for a little bit to provide some additional context about the situations he's in as a good kid in a mad city. Swimming pools is meant to address one of the most common illnesses among the family and the community, alcoholism. When we get to Sing About Me and I'm Dying of Thirst, this is the climax of the story, where the homies can decide to break the wheel and seek salvation in hopes of saving their lives, or they can continue to repeat the same sad cycle where young men are lost senselessly to gun violence. With the last two songs, he's celebrating his accomplishments and highlighting what it took for him to overcome this mad city. And even though it's filled with all kinds of pitfalls and adversity, there's no place like home. There's no place like Compton.
As a kid, you always say, you want this lifestyle, and then you get it, and then you see how, detrimental it can be for you. One thing I learned, when you in the limelight, anything, that you have a vice for, it's at your demand times 10, and it can kill you, So, me facing that, I always tend to put that in my music because that's everyday life in general.
People get on the mic, they're not personal anymore. They'll tell you everything they're doing right, but they won't tell you anything they're doing wrong. And that's where the connection, you lose your connection with, a lot of different artists. With him is, he gains that connection because he's willing to share something that the average person would, be embarrassed about.
His honesty is a big asset, man. He's just keeping it real, A lot of rappers out there just rap, but he honest about what he's talking about. I think that's what the people really feel, If you can see it at the shows. If you go to any one of your shows, man, the shows is crazy, and it's the honesty, man, and the records, you feel me?
Being a fan, one, and him being
a very good friend of mine. It's just kind of like a time of reckoning, like, you know, it's finally happening. Right now, I see the potential to take over the whole game, be the biggest artist in the game, be the biggest artist in hip-hop history. I see that potential, so that's good enough for me.
Okay.
I know it was a lot to go through, but we made it. Good Kid, M.A.A.d City is truly one of the most remarkable projects music has ever seen. Now let's continue with a timeline to the end of the Good Kid, M.A.A.d City era. Now we're going to talk about the last song Drake and Kendrick worked on together, Fucking Problems. Drake says he originally gave this song to Kendrick to use on the Good Kid, M.A.A.d City album. He didn't like Poetic Justice because he felt it was too much like the soft, romantic sound he was already known for. And on a song with Kendrick, he wanted to do something a little more aggressive. Unfortunately for Drake, Kendrick insisted Poetic Justice be included and passed Fucking Problems on to A$AP Rocky for him to use on his album. Now I believe this verse, like his verse on Poetic Justice, was written by Kendrick. At this point, he hasn't really beat anyone in a rap battle. So what rappers is he feeding on? And is he feeding on them by dissing them on the mic, or by stealing their rhymes and living successfully off of the work and creativity of others? I do want to point your attention to him mentioning a few things. First off, the Beatles are cool, random, but cool. Him saying, "I will pay to make it bigger, I don't pay for no reduction," is a wild statement to consider when we've recently heard about his involvement with bots and a PR firm who's been known for running smear campaigns in the past. He says that if you're coming for his head, then you better get to bussin'. I don't put it past Kendrick to give him this verse, knowing he has a few bars on the Heart Part 3 that says he has 3 hollow tips aimed at his head. On the last line where he says, "This long dick netter ain't for the long talking," there's a few things I want us to consider. First off,
pause.
On Poetic Justice, didn't he say they say communication save relations? Well, how can he effectively communicate in a relationship if he ain't for the long talking? Secondly, I've heard a few people say that this could mean Drake is calling himself an informant, basically saying he's the long dick of the law. That's cool. But after I'd recently found out about the parallels between Kendrick and Edgar Allan Poe, I thought to myself, there's no way he used this to compare Drake to Poe's rival, Longfellow. If you recall from earlier, Poe accused Longfellow of plagiarism, imitation, and being a didactic knife. I don't think it is that far-fetched to believe that Kendrick was using this long dick euphemism to accuse Drake of the same crimes as Longfellow.
Yeah, and then you have Drake, who's from Toronto.
Yeah,
He's
not from the upbringing that Kendrick had.
Actor to rapper, but rapper he's not a rapper, he's a performer, let's be honest. He purchased his career.
Yes, he did.
So he's not, he has no pride in it. He has nothing to say. And here's Kendrick with everything to say, but with no
this
audience.
Powerful message,
no audience. So he's seeing, okay, this is a game and I have to play the game.
I have to figure out a way to pimp Drake into helping me launch myself into this next, echelon of rappers. Because like we said, his first album, Section 80, had only sold 9,000 copies.
Yeah, this whole time he's trying to continue on with Pac's message, but if he doesn't have an audience, then
he's not going to be able to communicate the message in the first place.
And back in the 90s when Pac came up, he was different. They were different because what they were saying, nobody else was saying, and they were making people pay attention. But now, everyone's desensitized to it to a point where it's like, okay, yeah, we've heard that before, or oh, you like Pac, we get it, whatever. Not really listening to what Kendrick has to say. So now he has to code everything so that he can be playable, because the radios won't play him.
The radio will not play him.
So he has to play
because
the game.
The radio stations would rather play something with a hot beat and a catchy hook, and something with a message of go party, go out and spend your money.
Perpetuate the stereotypes, keep them distracted, keeps them down.
Yes.
Now, when we get to Kendrick's verse, we can see he declares this verse the finale. Sure, it could mean the final verse in the song, but what if he means this is the last time they, meaning Dot and Drake, are going to work together? When describing the woman he's interested in, he brings up Atlanta, just like he did when describing Shireen. Does him saying, "I got your girl on my line," sound like he's poking at Drake's missed call from the Poetic Justice music video? I know the Poetic Justice music video came out a few months after this song, but maybe Kendrick and his homies could have directed it in a way to fulfill the sentiments from this bar. As we get to the second half of Kendrick's verse, he kills the notion that he is impressed by a Benz, calling back to Shireen pushing an 04 Mercedes-Benz and one of the Canadians' addictions on Buried Alive. Now, we'll see how Don't Get Involved comes into play in just a minute. But when he says, "Listen what the crystal balls say," it made me think of the full moon being shown at the beginning of the Poetic Justice music video. And Halle Berry Hallelujah is 100% linked to the hook on Money Trees. The main premise of the song is about choosing between sin and salvation. The holla back could be a reference to the bar on the Heart Part 3. As we transition to post Good Kid, Mad City Kendrick, we see he's collaborated on Big Sean's Control with Jay Electronica. Taking the middle slot, he delivers one of the most lethal verses in hip-hop history. Released at the start of the blog era, this song was leaked after a sample dispute kept it from being included on Big Sean's album. Before Kendrick really gets going, the refrain sets the tone for the entire verse. On a song named Control, he accuses lesser minds of never really speaking on anything of value. He calls back to the alien from Buried Alive and the sin motif from Good Kid, Mad City. This also contains one of my favorite bars that's so funny to say despite how horrible it sounds. "I don't smoke crack, motherfucker, I sell it."
Like someone yelled out Kendrick. It seems like nowadays people want to build Kendrick.
Nobody yelled out Kendrick. You just heard that in your head.
No, earlier.
When you go to sleep, you just hear somebody be like, Kendrick Lamar.
No, but here's what's funny about you and Kendrick Lamar. It's like people forget you had him on Take Care. You had him on Buried Alive. You talked about a meeting that you guys had where you kind of was schooling him on the game. And there's a great line about how he realized he's the same age as you and it made him rude and impatient. So it's almost like it's very foreshadowing. You know, he ended up making a great record, Good Kid, Mad City. Just the connection.
Phenomenal album, by the way. Phenomenal album. Yeah, round of applause.
And then now he takes a competitive stance with a verse like Control. And then you said that, you know, he's not murdering you in any platform. But, you know, that's where that rivalry, that's where people want to try to build. That's if you want to try to build a rivalry. Like, what's your take on that? Do you feel like that they're trying to create a competition that he's not on your level because of your accomplishments? Like, do you feel like they're trying to hype this up and elevate it too much?
Nah, I feel like that's it. It's like, you know, he's the new guy to love, and of course, I mean, rightfully so. He's super talented, you know. But thank you. But he's but he's like, you know, he is the underdog.
What?
That's extremely hungry. You know what I'm saying? And he's doing his thing really well. And that verse was, he's giving people like moments, you know, like that verse was a moment to talk about. Are you listening to it now at this point in time? Okay. And then, but it was real cool for like, you know, a couple weeks. But like, if I asked you, for example, like, how does that verse start?
Tell Flex to drop a bomb on this shit.
No, do you remember?
No, and like,
No.
now mind you, it'll go on in Complex and Rap Radar, give it like verse of the millennium and all that shit or whatever. But like, I'm just saying, it's like, you know, I remember like somebody like asking me, you know, or maybe it was you that was like, is Kendrick Lamar your biggest competition like in this generation or whatever? And I think that Kendrick has like the utmost potential, man. Like, you know, I see Kendrick tomorrow, I'm gonna dap him. I didn't feel the way about that verse. I get it.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God, stop fucking lying.
I get the moment. Like, you know, he's a good guy. And like, I know that verse had no malice behind it because I saw him 5 days later at the VMAs and it was all love. So it's like, he didn't come on there on some wild, like, I'm in New York, fuck everybody, don't look at me. Like,
I'm the king.
So it was, you know, it was one of those things. It's like, I almost wish he had come in there on that shit because I kind of lost like a little respect for the sentiment of the verse. If it's really fuck everybody, then it needs to be
fuck everybody.
It just can't be halfway for the sake of the people. But you know what I'm saying? Like, for real, that's just how I feel. Yeah. But anyway, like, you know, I still like, when it comes to competition, I'm more worried about consistency. I'm more worried about bodies of work. I'm talking about hit records. I'm talking about, I'm basically.
I mean, out the gate, it's a straight shot to Drake's ego. Before he spits anything, he went ahead and told Funk Master Flex to go ahead and drop a bomb on this shit, because he knew it was about to be some fire. As we read slow, we find another reference to gold, and more importantly, the mode Dot is in when it comes to getting it. And calling back to how the Heart Part 3 started, Machiavelli's offspring is just another way of saying Pac reincarnated. So for the first part of this verse, Dot is really just popping it. He's using some immaculate wordplay, but if you look closely, he makes reference to being in Sin City, just like Drake was on The Resistance, and Dot was on the Heart Part 3. I felt this section was more of a continuation of the same, but just like before, he has a direct shot sprinkled in there. If you look closely, not only is Dot comparing himself to one of the Beatles by sending blessings to Paul McCartney, he's essentially saying he could take his spot and be one of the lead vocalists. Now, I literally just found this out doing the research, but with Paul McCartney's birthday being June 18th, Kendrick's birthday is smack dab in between Paul's and Tupac's. As the tension begins to heat up in this next section, Kendrick calls back to being jumped before, which makes you immediately think of the skit at the end of the Poetic Justice song. By referencing 007, he's talking more gun bars, but in a way where he's saying, I'm not trying to be anybody's friend when it comes to this mic. It's about competition. He's gonna get it just like when he said on Money Trees, me and my netta's trying to get it, ya bish. And this part of the verse might as well be when the third tower fell, because it was the call out heard around the world. Now, I didn't catch this when it came out, but this part was a flip of the bridge on Drake's Started From the Bottom. And remember how Kendrick said, don't get involved on fucking problems? Now, while he proceeds to call out the rest of his contemporaries from this era, he has some shots that were specifically sent to Drake. For starters, love and murder were central themes in the Poetic Justice song and music video. Make sure your core fans never heard of you is just another way of saying, I need to find a better way to take your fans now from the Heart Part 3. And they don't want to hear not one more noun or verb from you. To me, is calling back specifically to the third verse on Poetic Justice where he declares, you need to hear this. Love is not just a verb, multiple times. At the end of this verse, Kendrick just spazzes all the way out. It sounds like he's possessed, because as crazy as it is, he still sounds in control. He's saying some of the craziest stuff that doesn't make any sense, but sprinkled in are references to things he's already said before. Like, for example, the G5 reference points back to a bar on the Heart Part 3. Then he mentions Pac again, only this time he's basically associating listening to Pac as wanting to become more violent. So in closing, he's insinuating that even though he's a good kid, he's a lot more violent on the mic and in real life than he is leading on. Now, while this verse was still technically a sneak diss, I don't believe it was intended to diss everyone that was mentioned. In that sense, it operated more like a light jab than anything else. There was really no reason for Drake to go around crying and telling everyone that Kendrick said some very harsh words that hurt his feelings.
That's why we made
Yeah.
the video 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because we knew that
It
there
was
the-
obvious, like
Yeah.
there was some tit for tat.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we when we kind of like started really listening to it, we were like, holy shit, no, this is much bigger than just like he just doesn't like the guy.
No.
The idea is that they were not allowed to speak about this publicly
Mm-mm.
at all.
Squashed it.
But Kendrick keeps taking shots at Drake because Drake doubled down.
Yeah.
You know, Kendrick's like, get out of your lane. And the industry should have let this play out the way it was supposed to play out. Then we wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't be here.
Drake would have gotten back into his lane.
A little
would have-
more humbled.
Yeah, he would have been a very happy
A growing moment.
you know, Canadian, half black, half Jewish man, just
Yep.
living his best pop life.
Yep.
He would have been, well, I mean, he probably still would have been a pedophile, but that's for therapy
To figure out.
and the criminal justice system.
Mm-hmm.
But he wouldn't have been defiling and muddying down an art form, which is what he's doing. And people who think it's okay for you to take other people's raps and call them in your own and say that you're a rap artist.
I saw a tweet from Kid Cudi where he goes, I woke up, and this is in the midst of all the Kendrick Lamar, Drake stuff.
Mhm.
Kid Cudi says, I had there was a great sense of pride knowing that I wrote all of my albums.
Yeah.
Like he woke up feeling a sense of pride knowing that he had done that because
Yeah.
it is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
It should not be sullied. Like, that is so insulting.
I know.
It's so insulting, you know? So, like, if you think about it from that perspective and just what rap means to America in general, like,
Right.
like without rap, I mean,
what are we?
Especially being white in America, you are so disconnected from other communities because that's the way it's designed.
Yeah.
It's all about disconnection.
Right.
You know, rap really connected us to like one of the most beautiful communities
Mhm.
and just really shared these beautiful real stories.
Yeah.
And to be out here playing games with it is just plain disrespectful.
Right.
Moving on to the last song in this video, we have arguably one of the best BET Cypher verses of all time. It's clear that this was a shot. Even though he didn't say his name, he didn't have to because he basically said everything else. After those opening few bars, he gets straight to it. I mean, kicking boxes, like the box on the Buried Alive intro. I'm the master that played with myself on your favorite MC until the industry had wanted me assassinated. I mean, think about the Poetic Justice music video, which was released about 8 months prior to this cypher coming out. You could say that college is to the hood what the industry is to rap. And who did they imply shot Kendrick's character in the music video? These bars just get more lethal and lethal. He said he's about to crack the Da Vinci Code and then took a shot at Drake's album when he says nothing was the same since they dropped Control and what? From there, we get the dap heard around the world. That thing registered on the Richter scale for real. Schoolboy Q is a G, and him giving Kendrick that high five was not a coincidence. On the Hard Part 3, he says G's give him high fives. Like, this part specifically was subtle, but so effective. He literally made a dap a part of the performance. After taking shot after shot after shot, he says your shots will never penetrate because in this little game of pin the tail on the donkey, you ain't real. You been a fake. Turn the shotgun from a noun to a verb. Come on, Kendrick. You was just trying to flip love from a verb to a noun. What happened? Then you gonna say he over owe us, like OVO us? And here you go saying something about that damn duck again. He kind of winds it down in these following bars, but that's because the crime has already been done. Before he was talking about empathy and the blood of Jesus and all of that. Now he's saying he spilled blood cooking this shit up. The feeling like some of y'all is hating goes directly back to the backseat freestyle when he says, I pray you netters is hating. Jesus Christ. I mean, he has confirmation of the hating, but it's almost like he was waiting for the hate so he could go at you like how he really wants to. I mean, he's telling you that's what happened. The killings on Buried Alive, Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, and Poetic Justice were no accident. And if you really want to see him do it again, all you got to do is call on him. Just say his name on wax, and if you remember how the Poetic Justice music video went down, where Drake ends up leaving a girl a voicemail, Kendrick is saying it's not going to go down like that. He's going to answer that call for sure, and probably even call you back to confirm. Because like a true professional, your career ain't shit unless you got some Kendrick in it. As the verse closes out, he refers to the Compton court building again, which is one of the main settings in the Good Kid, M.A.A.d city. Kendrick wants this to be a symbol for his version of poetic justice. Because he spent so much time in that building, he feels justified in his actions. To close the verse out, he says it plainly. That boy is scared. Scared to death and scared to look in the mirror. King Kendrick. And that's all, folks. That's the timeline for the Good Kid, M.A.A.d City era. Before we close out, I want to take a look at this central theme that was established in the beef before we head out. When we look back at the title of part 2 in this series, we said it was because of the lyrics in the third verse of Poetic Justice. What we didn't know was how these same lyrics were interwoven all throughout these pivotal songs in this era. And it all started with a song on Drake's album. Not only is Poetic Justice a pivot point in this timeline, it was essentially a pivot point in the album too. For Poetic Justice, it's the only track named after a film. It's at the heart of the album, the halfway point. And the tone shifts in the album match the way the tone shifts in the song, especially if you include the skit where he gets jumped at the end. While the songs that came out before Poetic Justice that related to this beef were very silly and playful, the songs after Poetic Justice was released got real serious about what was going on. Lookin in the Mirror was a main character in this beef, all the way from the first bar on Buried Alive to the last bar on the BET Cypher. This motif told a story, if you were clever enough to catch it. Now, I know I said that part 3 was going to be the last video in this series, but there's really too much information to just keep it to myself. All we know is how Dot is, and as I keep finding stuff, I feel the need to share. Because why not? This is fun for me.
But I can never right my wrongs unless
I write them down for real.
And what do we know? Regardless of whether or not you believe that Drake writes his own music, regardless of what you believe, Kendrick has been so consistent about saying he doesn't.
Yep.
Every other rapper who has come out since this beef with Euphoria and push-ups and all of that.
All of it.
What are they saying? They're saying Drake does not write his own stuff. So regardless of what your feelings are or what you think or what you've heard in the past, what we're seeing right now is they're saying he's not.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
And it's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. Enough people that you have to, and it's a respect thing.
Yeah.
This is an art form. It's like saying that someone who paints a paint by numbers is the same is the same as Da Vinci.
Right.
It's not the same.
Especially if you know the history of hip hop too, and like what it was originated from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is and Kendrick says and speaks to it a lot in his interviews. Like this is something that you don't play with.
Yeah.
You don't mess with this thing.
No.
Like it's too important.
It's
like,
too important. It means too much to too many people.
Right.
It should not be tampered with, and the industry started tampering.
All love.